It's an exciting day in the world of Magic the Gathering. We've got Outlaws of Thunder Junction leaks. We've got a Fallout leak and a crazy new Hero of the Realms card to look at. Today, it's all good news.
Magic. I am a wizard. History. I'm an old wizard. The Magic Historian. My bones hurt.
Greetings, owners of fine luxury cardboard rectangles. My friends, I hope the day finds you well because we have gathered for a gloriously enjoyable edition of Mega Magic News. Good, happy, fun time style. We're actually just going to be looking at a bunch of leaks from upcoming Magic products and that awesome Hero of the Realm card that I mentioned. Now, obviously, when it comes to these new sets that are coming up, I do have some criticisms, but here's what I'm going to do today. I'm going to save them all for a mega epic rant stream that I'm gonna do tonight. This is what the thumbnail looks like, so you can either come to the live stream tonight or you can check it out on my archive afterwards. The live stream will be uploaded for your enjoyment. I will save all of the negative things I have to say for that stream, and we will keep it 100% good times here. So let's start out with the Heroes of the Realm card because this is a weird one and this is the only non-leak. This is a card specifically designed for Wizards of the Coast employees, all right? And this is called Traziki, Son of Sarah. I might be mispronouncing the name. It's Italian as far as I understand and stands for 3 10s, although I could be wrong about that. Either way, it's a pretty interesting card. 1 white and 3 gets you a 3/3 legendary with some pretty crazy abilities. It has Companion, which is a notorious ability that caused big problems back in the Ikoria days because it lets you essentially start the game with 8 cards in your hand as long as you meet the right conditions. And the conditions for Companion on this are just that your starting deck contains only nostalgic cards. Now, this nostalgic thing isn't an ability that exists on any other Magic cards. It's actually a play on the historic ability, it feels like. So to count as nostalgic, you either have to have retro frames, you have to be a legendary card, or an artifact card. That's what your deck has to be made up out of, right? Now, obviously, you can get around that by just making your deck entirely old bordered cards. And when it comes to retro frames, they don't specifically mean you have to get a new product that has the throwback frames. It means you can use any card frames from basically pre-8th edition as well as the new ones that they have made going forwards, right? So the card itself as a 3/3 vigilance is pretty underwhelming, but when you get to the bottom ability, whenever you cast a nostalgic spell, so remember, this isn't just artifacts, this isn't just creatures that are legendary, this is also any retro bordered card that you have. So any instant sorceries, all that will trigger this, right? So whenever you cast a nostalgic spell, you can pay 2. If you do, put a +1/+1 counter on this creature, and then for each +1/+1 on it, you make a Sarah Angel token. Now, it doesn't explain what a Sarah Angel token is because it expects you to know. If you're old school like us, you will. It's 2 white and 3 for a 4/4 flyer with vigilance. So however many +1/+1 counters are on this card, that's how many 4/4 vigilance angel tokens you make. It's absolutely bonkers, right? And it's a really cool concept. This knight who goes charging along, bringing up all these Sarah angels, a host of angels, more and more appearing as they charge forward. Now, it's not 100% clear exactly what division this card was made for because the booster fund cards, or I should say, these cards are given out to different divisions based on what they work on. And you can tell clearly that I think it comes from the booster fund division. It makes perfect sense. They're the ones who are responsible for things like the retro borders, although it could also be some other initiative we don't know about that's just responsible for going through Magic's past and finding things to bring into the future. But the booster fund team seems like the most obvious choice. So These are Hero of the Realm cards. They only make maybe a dozen of these in total to give out to Wizards of the Coast employees. So if you're hoping to get one, yeah, fat chance. These rarely ever come up for sale. It usually takes years for them to come up for sale. And when they do, they go for thousands and thousands, sometimes tens of thousands of dollars. So yeah, this is one of those ones, if you want it, you're probably just going to have to grab a marker and write on a basic land or grab something else. You know what I mean? Because there's no way you're getting the original. Now, let's move in to Leak Country. Get your canoes and paddle on down the leak stream. We're going to start out with the Fallout leak that Wizards of the Coast accidentally showed us. And this is almost perfect. And you know what? I feel that way about this card. My only minor complaint about this card is I don't really appreciate modern feeling stuff in Magic the Gathering in terms of the flavor. So the fact that this has like a house in the background, I could actually kind of let the armor slide to a degree just because Magic has had weird power magic fueled armor before, and this is kind of close to Urza's power armor. It's still a little bit too modern feeling, but ultimately it's the stuff in the background that kind of pulls me away. But the actual power of the card, what it does, this is 100% up my alley. I love cards like this. 1 white, 1 green, and 4. For an enchantment aura, slap it on your creature. The enchanted creature has base power and toughness 9-10 and has indestructible. First of all, it just tickles the part of me that loves big, dumb green stuff. I love making huge creatures, right? And I love enchantments that go, this creature gets +20/+20. It can smack your mom for a cookie. Yes, please. I will take that. That is amazing, right? But the problem with a lot of those enchantments is, hey, put it on the creature, and now that creature is just getting gonked. And it's like, oh, hey, nice. Did you just put out that creature and then spend like 8 mana to put this big dumb enchantment on it? Yeah, I'm just going to pay 1 black and 1 and it's gone. And you're just sitting there going, come on, bro, my toy. But no. Indestructible. Can you exile it? No. Then deal with a 9-10. And on top of that, it's 9-10 base stats. This works with those other enchantments. Do you have an enchantment that gives +20/+20? Well, guess what? Slap it on top of the 9-10. Put this on a Stuffy Doll, and Stuffy Doll could be like, oh, the tides have turned. Now I give pain in new ways. All for you, right? Like, it's so satisfying to make big, dumb creatures and smash with them. So this is such a vibe. 6 mana is a lot, but you make the creature indestructible. And there's a ton of creatures out there that are like 1/1 with some ability that says, you get to do things based on my power level. So just slapping something like this on them takes them into turbo crazy town. And I love it. And in terms of the actual flavor of it, the idea is supposed to be from the Fallout perspective. This is an incomplete part of power armor, an incomplete set, I should say. The flavor text says an incomplete set of power armor is still a suit of power armor. And that's true. Bro, these things were basically designed to be tank destroyers. So you put one of these on and you're more capable than current era tanks, right? So even an incomplete one is going to make you a force to be reckoned with. And the 9-10 stats really do let you know how crazy that is. And it makes me wonder what kind of other gigantic insanity are we going to see in this Fallout set? And for me, another thing I like about the card is the fact that the name is also perfect. And to me, the card, if you just tweak the flavor into the regular Magic world, it becomes perfect to me. So this card lives up to its name, which is an extra level of enjoyment. Now, let's move on to Thunder Junction. And remember, friends, I am going to keep it positive in this video as we talk about the spoilers, because I'm going to absolutely hammer this set tonight in my rant stream. It's set up, it's ready to go. Again, here's the thumbnail so you can see it. Keep an eye out for it. You will have a good time, but don't bring your kids because the language is going to be absolutely insane. Anyways, moving into the first stage of spoilers for it, we're looking at the stuff that was spoiled on Arena. Now, this is just telling us characters that we can expect to see there, as well as some of the artwork along with their names. So, Oko is in this set. We knew he was going to be in this set, right? One of the hooks that's supposed to draw us in is Oko and like Kellen finally being united, because Kellen is Oko's child, right? So, we've got this artwork that depicts Oko, it depicts Kellen, and it depicts Vraska, and their names are Oko is the ringleader, Vraska's the silencer, and Kellen is the kid. And I like the Kellen as the kid. He's the kid. That works, right? The silencer, Vraska as the silencer, that makes perfect sense as well. And Oko as the ringleader, that, you know what, if you didn't know, Oko is actually royalty, and he styles himself in a very particular way. Take a look at the artwork that's depicting him. You'll notice that he's wearing that cowboy hat, but take a deeper look, you'll notice there's a bunch of thorns protruding from it, right? And that's because Oko has that nature magic, and this is how he shows it. But if you look even closer, you'll notice that on the front of his hat, it's actually spiking up, and what you might be forgiven for thinking at first was the planeswalker symbol, right? But it's got too many spikes for that. What is it really? That's Oko's self-styled crown. So, Oko, if you don't know his story, he basically hates his parents, they're royalty, and so he's got this sort of bent against it where he's like, I'm royal and I'm awesome, but at the same time, I don't like royals ruling over people. That's why he messed with the Kenriths over on Eldraine. So there is actually cohesion to his character, and it does make sense that he would be in a place like Thunder Junction. Thunder Junction is a locale meant for people who are like rogues. They're, evil, depending on your definition. I bet a bunch of different variations of villainous are going to be here. And then you're going to have characters like Kellen who don't have any villainous aspect, right? So it's just supposed to be a rough and tumble world. Oko doesn't like authority. He doesn't like being ruled over. So a Wild West style vibe actually makes perfect sense for a character like that. Vraska the Silencer, I like it on multiple levels because not only is she a Gorgon who can literally turn people to stone, but on top of that, she might just want the silence and peace of being alone. Remember, she's in love with Jace, the whole Phyrexianification thing, it all falls apart, like what happened to Jace, all of it, she just might be dealing with a bunch of guilt over that. She's over there for that reason. So you got multiple levels where she fits into the world. Now, Kellen, he's just finding Oko, right? And Kellen has been stapled across a bunch of different sets. So this is supposed to be the ultimate payoff for that. And I'm curious to see how it's gonna go. And on a note that you might find amusing, Kellen's called the kid. When you look at the artwork, he's very much Kellen the adult. It gives me vibes like if you remember movies from like the 80s and early 90s when they had high school kids, but they didn't cast high school kids or even people remotely close to it. They weren't like, yo, we got this like 16-year-old high school kid. Why don't we get like an 18 or 19-year-old who's an adult but looks that age? They figured out to do it now. Hollywood knows to do it now. But back in the day, they were like 16 years old. Get the 32-year-old Richard Grieco to be the high school kid. And then you see him and you're just like, that's a full-grown adult man. And so Kellen's been like a boy on this entire adventure, and he grew up real quick. I don't know what he investigated on Markov Manor when we weren't looking, but it aged him rapidly, so much that his ears are even trying to escape his head. They're just getting all pointy up at the top. But I'll save more conversation for that about that over on the rant stream, okay? So these are the spoilers that we get from the arena posting, also knowing that Tiny Bones is going to be part of the set, the little skeletal, the little adorable skeletal dude that we originally got from Jumpstart has made his way into people's hearts and will be the companion for the Mastery Pass on Arena for Thunder Junction. And I'm here for that. That is actually a lot of fun. Now, we have more spoiler action in the form of the commander decks. And when you take a look at these, they reveal a number of pieces of information about Thunder Junction. So, right off the top, we've got 4 different decks. You have Quick Draw, which is blue-red, okay? This deck slings multiple spells and unleashes big turns. So basically this is going to be something we've seen a fair bit of. You're going to have a bunch of rapid fire red and blue spells that probably generate some quick tokens for you to swing in with. You're going to have your quick burn, maybe some bounce or some stun spells to slow your opponent down, right? And just fire off a whole bunch of spells. Maybe you'll have some that say, do this for every second spell you cast in the turn, or a bunch of extra fuel. But either way, it's going to be a variation we've seen before, and the quick draw concept, it all ties together in what feels like a very obvious manner, right? The next one is Desert Bloom. This is red, green, white, and the way this is tagged is discard lands, grow them back. So this feels like a really good opportunity to tap into the desert designs that they had already been leaning into for things like the Amonkhet block, where you give lands the subtype desert, and then you can just have all these different cards that care about deserts, and they're pretty sweet for a desert tribal land style setup, but at the same time, because they only care about deserts, you can get kind of stronger with them because they're not going to affect the overall larger land base, because at most right now, Magic has like 10 deserts. And so we're probably looking at a deck that has a number of cards that specifically care about returning permanents from the graveyard. I expect to get more versatility from the cards. Most of them will focus on bringing back permanents as opposed to just lands, but we will probably see at least one Crucible of World style permanent that sits on the board and just says, yo, you can play lands from your graveyard. This is something that's become more and more prevalent over time, and I feel like it makes perfect sense, honestly, as an ability in Magic the Gathering, as a planeswalker. Your connection to your lands is one of the most important things there is. That power, right? So having things that let you grow that power back after it's been severed for some reason makes a lot of sense, and it really should have been part of Magic longer than it has been. And overall as well, from a flavor standpoint, the idea of like you bring out deserts and like grow them up, right? Who knows? Maybe they're not going to do the full-on desert thing, but the name is literally Desert Bloom, which says to me, make deserts that when they come back from the graveyard, come back better. That would be a funky concept, right? You have a land that taps for a colorless mana, but if it goes to your graveyard and you bring it back, well, guess what? It's now lush. You've somehow managed to infuse it with extra growth or something like that. So now you have an oasis. So it taps for a colorless or a blue mana and has some extra effect built in. Something like that, where when you make these deserts regrow, you get a benefit from it. So you get the bonus from pitching it. I guess they could have the some kind of channel effect on the deserts as well, where you discard the desert to gain an effect. We've seen things like that in the past, so that's also an option for this deck, right? After that, we've got Grand Larceny. This one's black, green, blue. This is about stealing your opponent's cards and generating mana. So this is probably going to be the most obnoxious deck to play against in terms of sometimes, and maybe to play with, in terms of sometimes it's not really going to do anything and fall flat on its face, and other times it's just going to keep taking your stuff and just shaking you about with it. Because Wizards is giving like better tools to steal your opponent's creatures than they used to, right? We're not going quite as crazy as that 1-2-3 guy from Core Set 20, where it was, I can't remember exactly what he was called, but he was crazy. Just straight up when he comes out, steal your opponent's stuff and he let you draw cards. It was absolutely like busted. So that was too far, but they really do kind of push it in between now with the creature stealing. And on top of that, this deck features Gaunty. This looks very much like Gaunty on the cover of it, right? And this is a really cool concept flavor-wise. Gaunty is an Aetherborn. Aetherborn are beings on Kaladesh, and they're basically made of the Aether, and their lives are incredibly short. They crumble to dust within a few years, but Gaunty has found a way to extend his life at great cost, right? So he's amassed a lot of money to keep his life going, and he definitely has a black market character vibe to him. So he absolutely fits into Thunder Junction. Go somewhere where being rich is going to make you king. There's no real laws. You can do what you need to do to survive. I mean, I have no idea what the level of law is like on Thunder Junction, so I am making a bit of an assumption about the world's flavor, but I feel comfortable doing so. Wild West world equals not much rule of law. So Gaunty will fit right in. And then we have the final deck, which is Most Wanted, which is red, white, and black. And this is Olivia featured on this deck. This deck is an earn treasure by outlaws. So the vibe of this feels like Olivia has shown up after marrying Markov, basically like, yo, I'm going to take all your money. I'm going to take it on down to Thunder Junction, and I'm just going to throw it all around. I'm going to buy me up all these men. Pew, pew, pew. Let's go, let's go. So yeah, you've got this scenario where Olivia the vampire has made her way to Thunder Junction, and she's throwing her cash around. So it's probably going to be a number of outlaw. I don't know if they're going to bring an outlaw creature type in. I doubt they're going to slap the actual word cowboy in. They're probably going to use something like rogue, right? So it could be like rogues, you sack treasure to cast them on the cheap, because we've seen things like that in Capenna, where you had a big creature that costs 4 or 5 to cast, but if you're paying in treasure mana, you only have to pay 2. So I expect that to be the same kind of concept that we're going to get here overall. So the Olivia deck, I mean, she's an evil vampire who just does what she wants. She filled her plans over on Innistrad messing around with Markov, so having her head over to Thunder Junction, that makes perfect sense to me. The only other thing really that you can glean from taking a look at these images, because I don't know who the top 2 characters are supposed to be, is that Wizards has opted not to go with any of the pow, pow, pow. Instead, they're going the crossbow. They're going with crossbows. So that will be the way that these dudes are armed, and I think that's going to be pretty much across the board. Again, making some assumptions only based on the information we've seen, but looking at all 4 of the commander decks, it really does feel like crossbows are the way that we're going to go. So that wraps up everything I have to say here. I have a lot more to say specifically about Thunder Junction in tonight's rant stream. One last time, here's what the thumbnail looks like. So if you can't catch it live today, you can watch it later on. There'll be a link to it down in the description and here at the end of the video. Thanks for coming by, my friends. Big shout out to my patrons. You guys rule. Thanks for supporting my channel. And I will see you all in the live stream. Buckle up.